Good evening, and welcome to the Muddy Creek Podcast. Tonight, I have a very special soul that's on the podcast tonight. And if anyone knows me, I am not a phone person. And yesterday, I spoke with her about 2 hours, and that is unheard of for me. And it felt like it was the shortest conversation I ever had in my life because there's so much more I wanted to ask her. And the more I spoke to her, the more I realized that there are a lot of old souls that still walk this earth, people with old values and people with big hearts, people that still practice the old way. My guest tonight, Donna, has Shawnee blood running through her veins. Her history of her family history and her history is very intriguing, is very important, and it was very meaningful for me to get her story out, and I couldn't get her on the show fast enough. And as she tells her story, her family's culture, her history, who she is as a person, living among the Sasquatch on her land, you will understand why this is a very special program tonight. And I hope you will enjoy her as much as I enjoy her. And I'm very proud to call her my friend. And I hope to be seeing her more co hosting with us, Don and I, on the show, and just having her along as company because I value her opinion. I value what she has shared with me. And you can find her Facebook under the Watcher's Maiden. I think that you will really enjoy what she shares. I think you'll really enjoy her culture. And I think you'll really enjoy her story as much as I have. Donna, tell as much or as little as you would like about your bio, and then we'll go on into your story.
Okay, well, first off, thank you for having me, and I feel the same. I talked to you yesterday. It was like, oh my gosh, I think I just found my other sister.
Thank
but well, I'm of Shawnee descent, and I grew up in the old ways, taught the old ways. Grew up on a farm, running wild like a crazy person. My poor grandma, I felt terrible what I did to her as I was a child. Um, I guess. I don't know if I should just start with. Do you want me to start with just the my story at 6 years old, or you want?
Let's start to your grandmother and your grandmother, the way her way of life kind of goes with the history of the land and what went on, but your story also goes with that as time goes on.
Right.
You want to
Well,
start
my
there?
grandma. Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, like I said, my grandma. Um, my dad was the youngest of 17 kids, and he was born in 1927. And back in an old cabin in the woods. When I say woods, I mean woods. I'm not talking about anything modern. Is under Buzzard Roost, and that's where his mom and dad. Um, that's where they came from. Was there back in the woods, old ways. They my dad, my grandpa, and my great grand. They was all hunters, trappers, dug roots for a living. I mean, my dad worked other jobs too, but that's the way I grew up. And my grandma, there was a story. I hadn't told you that yesterday. I'd heard that earlier on from my dad that my grandma, she liked wild onions. She'd go out and just pick the wild onions, and there's a spot there where they grew good. And then she'd always did greens, the old wild greens. She'd pick them, and she had picked a bunch of. It's called Shawnee lettuce. It's just like lettuce, except it grows wild. And then she went for her green onions. There's the ramps, which you don't want to eat them because them things ain't no good. But she had her spot where she went to get them, and my dad must have been. He was really little, I guess, then. And he said that she went over. She was picking him. He was with her, and she was picking him. Went to get her green onions, and when she's on one side of the kind of like a little hillside there, I guess there was we call them the Watchers, or not, we don't call them Bigfoot, but I guess there's one of them there, and he was deciding he's getting him some too. And that's what my dad, he had different interactions, and she did too. And so they shared the patch. There was no grumbling or fighting or anything. And so I think it was kind of like a way of life. The old Shawnee legends is, they were there to protect they're the Shawnee protectors, are there to protect their people. And just kind of moving forward from there. Um, like I said, Dad had seen him before. She carried him outside. He had to go to the bathroom one night. That was the first time he saw him. And he was real little, and she'd taken him out of the cabin. Of course, they don't have no running water or bathrooms. It's just an old country cabin with the big old stone fireplace and the whole thing. And she'd taken him out in the yard, and he went over and just, kind of sat down and go to the bathroom. And he said that there was just like this big dark shape came up over top of him. And of course, he's little, and he said it scared him. And but he said he called her ma'am. He never did call her mom or anything. He called her ma'am. He said ma'am walked over and just held her hand up, and she said, and it didn't say no. She said, "Baby, my baby," and picked him up and carried him back into the cabin. But he said it was huge, one of the Watchers, and he had he walked off through the woods. So moving forward again, it's just the way of life. I mean, my grandmother interacted with them, Dad did, and then I guess I was like 6, when I seen the first one. I was with Dad, ding big patchy yellow root, and we'd been there. We'd take the old time feed sacks, the burlap feed sacks. And when you dig them, you separate them because you sell the tops. You have to sell the tops separate. You have to dry them out and all that. We got to dry the roots too. And I wasn't doing much digging, but I was cleaning, and you got to knock the mud out of it and that kind of stuff. And I was sitting there doing that and filling up the sacks. And we have the old time country fairs and stuff, and I'd get money that way too if I helped. That's part of that. But we've been there for a while, and Dad, all of a sudden, he stood up, and Dad always wore bibs. He kept his tobacco, or he chewed, so he kept that plug of tobacco down top of his bibs. And he got up, and he walked over to the stump sitting there, and he put plug of tobacco on the stump. And he come back, and he said, "Now, come on, we're going to go." And of course, I'm grumbling and arguing. I don't want to go. And he said, "Nah." I said, "We're going to go now." So he took my hand, and we started walking away, and I'm still kind of, getting dragged back. So I said, "Come on." And I looked back, and right there by that stump where we've been sitting, and I, within 30 feet of where I'd been sitting, a big shape, he stood up, and literally 8 foot tall. I mean, it's like to me, it looked like a mountain.
Wow.
And that was the first time I saw it, and of course, I'm scared, I'm a kid, I'm scared. And Dad's like, "Now, come on now." He said, "Just come on, just calm as cucumber, just quiet." He said, "Come on now. And you leave it alone, it'll leave you alone." So we left and went on. And as I grew up, because I was a wild child, I was 6 years old, and I had real long hair. My poor grandma, she'd braid it down so tight that your skin hung up. She'd take these big. She cut. She'd just tear off a rag. And she'd wrap it up in my hair and wrap it around so I couldn't pull it out because I'd pull my hair down. And she'd do that. Well, I didn't like it. And every morning, breakfast ready. She got 4 o'clock in the morning. So I always had breakfast ready for Dad, go to work and all that. And I'd head out that back door. You went out the back door, and we had cisterns where the water catch, and then the barn through the path. And then I hit the barn, and I had a little pony down there, little white pony. Her name was Sugar. Dad had bought her for me. It was the orneryest, the meanest thing you ever did see, I'm telling you. But I'd run down to that barn. in my underwear and no shirt on. I was 6 years old, didn't matter. And that hair flying, and she'd be chasing me. That pony, I might just run out and I grab by the mane, I'd jump on and down through the wood. You know, you went down the path and you was in the woods and I'd be gone. I'd come home, cuckleburrs in my hair, sticks in my hair. I'd look like a dirt bag rolling in the mud. But, so that was kind
Good
of,
life.
yeah, it was wonderful. Didn't have to worry about nobody bothering you. I go to the woods. I have a creek. I go down there and play in the creek, and just that was my way of life. We didn't have a TV. I mean, there was times when my favorite memory was my grandma had this big rocking chair. At the end of the day, she'd get in that chair. She had a kerosene lamp, the old lamps. And I'd climb up in her lap and she'd tell me stories or she'd read to me. Oh my gosh. I loved to hear her voice. It was so amazing. And she sat there until I'd fall asleep. I sleepwalk. I would sleepwalk when I was little. So even though I was older, she put me in a baby crib so the rails were up high. So if I got out, I'd wake her up. So as I slept in her room. And it was funny because you think, if you're sleepwalking, you couldn't do anything. I could. I'd open the door. I could open the door. I've been out in the snow. I've actually walked out in
Oh
the
my
snow.
goodness.
After I got married, my husband soon learned. He pushed the bed up against the wall and he slept in front. So if I tried to get out, I'd wake him up. One night I got out and was going down the road. I was out on the road in my nightgown and bare feet. I'm walking in the snow, yay deep. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I had my childhood was, I think the next time that I really had a really big interaction with the watcher, again, I was probably right at 12, and I had a big pony then. Had big, might as well say horse. But I'd go down. His name was Jesse, the big old spotted horse. And I'd go down get him, and again I'd head out. And I love my creek. I'd go down there. I'd take a book, and I always had that real long hair, and there's little waterfalls and it was just like the blue clay flat, And I lay down in the water and I lay and read my book, and I'd pulled my hair down again, and I put my ribbons up on this rock there, and I laid them up there. And I've been laying there for a while, just being a kid, and I thought I'd seen something move, and like limbs in the tree kind of rustling around. I didn't pay no attention, and then I got a whiff because they have a very unique smell. You can smell them, and so I thought, I remember smell, and I didn't see it. And then my ribbons are gone. My just strings or whatever, they's gone. I thought, well, what in the world, And I looked up. Now you got to think, I'm down in the woods. This is deep woods. We got the cattle fields, and we had 11-acre berry patch. It was 11 acres. It was blackberries, raspberries, the whole thing. Because we had orchards and all that. But I seen those, like my ribbons going up through moving. It's like, what the heck, what? And then I kind of realized I seen the dark shape moving, and I realized they're here, which I knew that Dad interacted. He taught me, one of the big things was about control your emotions. I had terrible temper. I did. I was very hard to. I had two older brothers, and I could fight just as bad, just as good as they could. So to control the temper, control your fear, And so I see it didn't bother me, but it took my ribbons, and I went by. I wasn't nothing gonna keep me out of the woods because them's my woods, and I'm gonna go where I want. And I went back in there on the rock. There was like some shells and just different colored rock, little pebbles and stuff. And but right in the middle of them, it's an arrow straightener. It's just a rock. It's got a hole in it, And when you make the arrows, you use that to straighten the shaft. Because my dad made everything. He yokes for the he would turn the calves into oxens. He used them to pull with. Of course, we always had mules. We worked with mules. I logged with my dad from the time I was little. He would. I'd ride the mule up the hill, and he would hook them up. He'd hook a single tree up, hook the logs on, and I'd bring them down. Then my brothers unhooked at the bottom, stacked the logs, and I'd take it back up for another load. That was the way it worked, and it was easier. And I like riding the old mule anyway. Kid playing, but Dad would sit down. I mean, he made the single trees. He made the yokes and he trained he'd get 2 bull calves and he cut them. He did his own castrating. He did all that, and so it was just kind of way of life. And axe handles, anything he wanted, he'd just go cut he cut the tree down. He cut a hickory or whatever, and he made his own. But
Wow.
over the years, I grew up in the woods. That was my thing, and I hated school. I was a terrible child at that too. My poor dad, he'd drive me to school because I went. Oh my, I was terrible. My mom was. I was terrible. I hated being inside. Always did my schoolwork was always done. They had it all. But my poor mom, she'd take me in one door, and I'd be out the other door and back to the car before she could get back.
You told me a story about your grandma chasing you
Oh,
through the woods, and you said I was still in my bloomers and she was still chasing.
I did. I would come out and wear go to bed and wear my underpants. And when I come out there, if she'd catch me, so I was going to get that hair braided down. Let me tell you, it's going to be done. And so come out. My bedroom was by the kitchen. I'd come out through there, and I didn't put on a shirt. I just hit. I was a wild child. I was. I'm. God help me. I think about it and the things I did. I skipped school one day. I did. I hated school so bad. Well, finally, Dad made me change schools. Then I have to walk to the end of the road to get the bus. Well, once you went down you had to walk down the road. We had a big spring. We had a well and stuff, but my mall, that's what I call my grandma. We always go down there and get the spring water because she wanted that. Well, when you went down, you hit down through there and you're back into the woods again. Well, this day, I think I was 9, and I'm going down through there. And when I got there, Dad had left ahead of me, so I'm thinking, he's already went on to work. I'm safe. So I hit that trail, throw my books up underneath. There's a little cliff like there. Threw the books up underneath there, on down, and my dog had followed me. So when I got to the creek, then I'd circle back around, and then I'd come back into the barn, and I'd get my pony. So this day I'm going down through there, and there's a big holler log, and the dog shied away. She wouldn't go around the log. She went on up the bank ahead of me and stood there and just looked at me. Well, I come over the log on the creek, it's land. I mean, it's like, yay, big log. And as I went over the log and I got past it a little bit, I looked now the end of that log. We had panthers, and they tell you they ain't here where they're lying. We have black panthers, and that panther come out there at the end, and it come up on the log, and I about peed my pants. And I'm standing there thinking, oh, but Jesus, what am I going to do? And then I remember Dad said, you don't never run. He said, just, that's what beat in my head. Never run. You move slow. So I started up side of that cliff, and I'm going every breath. You can just imagine my heart just like boom, boom. Oh my God. I got up to the top where the barbed wire fence was, right? Well, the field, and then you went to the barn. I got to that fence, and I just kind of fell through it. And there stood my dad. He said, I seen you. You thought you was getting away. But he's like, where are you running from? And I was like, I was going, cat, cat, cat. And he said, I told you about that. And my dad never spanked me in my life. He did not. He would tell me. And if I disappointed him, my heart would be broke. Well, this day, he decides he would he took the side of his foot. He's going to kick my butt. He had tennis shoes on. He broke his toe. He didn't hurt me a bit, but he broke his toe. I felt so bad because I'm like, oh my God. I never knew, honestly, I never knew if he really did or whether he just did make me feel bad. But I certainly,
Well,
I certainly listened on that one. So
you took care of your dad and
yeah,
shared a lot with you, but you never left his side.
no, for 2 years, Dad was 81. He had a stroke. He's still on the farm, and he lived alone because my grandma passed away, a few years before, and I took care of her right up to the end. And then Mom got sick, and he told me, it's like I bought my property here, so I put a trailer in right in my front yard so I could see her. And he told me if I would, take her, then he would come. And but he didn't for about 4 years. I don't know if I lost you or not.
I am still here. I had to take my earphones off.
Okay.
But
All right.
your dad, I'll jump back on in a moment. I apologize. Your dad was a big part of your life, and one of the things about your
Yep.
story that I absolutely love is my dad was my John Wayne. My dad was my everything. And when you were telling me the story of your dad, and that just,
Oh,
yeah.
my dad was everything to me. Bless his heart. I probably drove him crazy with when I was a kid. I never left. I mean, he was always there. I mean, he worked, and I couldn't wait for him to get home. And my grandma was just a huge part of my life too. But died in his last years. Um, he'd had that stroke, and he had two coon dogs that he kept them in. He lived alone. Man, I like to never got to the bed to get him because he was balled up in the bed, and I had to get to him and to get squad and everything to get him to the hospital. And then when he was well enough to come home, he come home with me. He didn't have no other choice. And from then on, I never left him, and he had to go to the hospital. It sounds crazy. He had 15% of his lungs, and he had 10% of his heart. That's all that functioned. And I'd taken him to the hospital, and he was there for a month. I never left the room. I ate there. I used their shower, bathroom, everything. I never left that room because as long as I was beside him, he stayed calm. I'd sleep in the chair beside him. I'd put my foot up on the bed, and he'd hold on to my foot. And finally, they come in and told me, it's like, well, he might have maybe a week left. I said, then we're going to go home. And I did. I brought him home. My dad lived 2 more years. I took care of him hand and foot. But when I moved him to my house, within a month of me moving him there, um, well, it was like it started out as like my bedroom had big glass windows, and then I had the old time screen door, and I'd leave that door open. And it's like it started like 3 days. On the first night, it woke me up. I smelled the smell, the really bad smell. And at first I thought like the septic broke or something. I didn't know sure what it was, and it wasn't. And that went on the third night. I seen the shadow beside my doorway at the corner of my bedroom. So I still wasn't positive. So I did close my door that night. But the next night I went down, and I always carried a gun. I'd go put Dad in bed. He wouldn't go to bed till midnight because he liked to watch the news. And that was our routine. Make sure he had everything he wanted and all that good stuff. And that night I came out, and I got in between, and I smelled that heavy smell. And I turned around and looked, and I had a big old huge cedar tree. I mean, huge, way, way big. And I seen something standing behind that cedar tree, and it kind of, well, it concerned me. So I But then I don't run, you know. So I eased into the house, and then Dad's like, "What in the world's wrong with you?" I said, "Dad, I think there's a bear out there." And he's like, he said, "Well, show me." So I helped him over to the door, and he looked out, and he's like, "No, you just leave him alone. He'll leave you alone." He said, "He's just watching." And I'm going, "Oh my gosh!" It clicks in my head because I hadn't seen, you know, not for years. I had not seen. Of course, Dad taught me about the marker stones and all that, but I never once I came here. And I said, "You don't mean?" And he's like, "It'll be all right." And so every night it stood there. It'd stand there and watch, and it'd stay. It's like it knew what time I was going. It'd be there. I go and get Dad ready, get him bed, and then, you know, it'd stand there for another hour or so, and just, you know, and then it'd mosey off. And then I think it was a few months into it doing that. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, I'd put him to bed and everything. And I was back in the house, and well, I fell asleep, and I heard these horrible screams, and it's, I mean, it was like an elephant trumpeting and uh, howls and this just violent screams, which I never heard that before in my whole life. Always heard the hoops, the chirps, never a growl, not a mean type thing. But that night it was violent, and so like a dummy, I come out again. I'm terrible. I just run around in just a t-shirt. I didn't wear pants or whatever. I came out in my nightgown that night, the barefooted, and I walked all the way down. I have a bridge. I had to go down past Dad's house, and I got to the bridge, and I had the pig pen was there. I brought Dad had one pig left on the farm, and I brought it home. And by this time, she's a 400-pound sow, so she's big. And I mean, the fence is tall. I mean, she stood up. She's way taller than I was, and she come up on her hind legs because she's our hand raised her, so you know she's used to treats. And but that thing, he was all that going on, and it came down, went through the pig pen. It stepped over, and there was like footprint, and then off. The pig pen is wide. It's not small because it's a big hog. But it went, you know, it's like two steps and over the other side. And then through the creek, it went through the creek. And then I had chicken coop on the other side. I've always had chickens. I have a chicken farm now. But it didn't kill anything, but it was just like it just punched it and kicked it and just destroyed it. The the framework, chickens are going everywhere. And but I had come back in the house, from the bridge. I'm telling my, I stood there for a while, and I was like, oh my gosh, nobody knows you're out here, and I didn't have a gun with me, so I got back inside. But it got down to the bottom of the property, and that had he was this old dog, and it was a bull mass and a pit bull mix. Old Jake, that was his name. And I heard him scream. I hear it's awful. I heard him scream, and I was like, oh cripes, it's got the dog. And then I have a British Enfield. It's a 303, and I have armor piercing bullets. So I had picked it up and said, and then I picked it up, and I was like, no, no, I ain't going out. Something tells something stopped me, just almost like a physical block that said, no, you're not going. And it traveled down the road. You had to go down maybe 3 miles to the next, at the end of the road. There's a house there, an older lady lived in it. And she heard it. It went past her house, and she called the cops. And they came out, and I talked to him and said, oh, you're just hearing coyotes. And I was like, nah, it ain't no coyote. I live in the country. I don't know coyotes. But I didn't elaborate because I really didn't want him nosing around, I'll be truthful. But all the way up through there, it's Cedar Mills. That's what it's called, actually. And all the way up through there, there's houses. Once you hit the main road, there's houses. And it just slung dogs. I mean, there was dogs attacked all the way up through there. And my daughter's 6 miles back. You go back a holler. Hers is the very last house on that holler. And that's where it ended up at. In the back, there's 400 acres. that had not been touched. This is years ago, so it hadn't been touched at all. And up until maybe 6 months ago, over 100 years, nobody's touched that timber. So you can, I mean, it's even older than that. There's trees in there that's 200 years old, massive. So this is, it's called the Valley of the Dead. That's part of the old Shawnee land, and it has a name for that for a reason. But that's where it ended up at, and that's I guess safe spot. But the next night he was back. He's back behind the tree, it's calm. And so I don't, in my heart, I don't think it was him that did that or whatever upset it or caused that ruckus. Something caused it. I can interact with them, which Dad taught me to do that. It's mental. I feel their emotions. They feel mine. They're part of me, and I'm part of them. I'm
You,
not saying that there's not bad ones, because there
mhm.
is, just like in human beings. It's good and bad. And they have bad days just like we do. So,
So old Jake ended up coming home. Now we don't want to leave that part of the story out because
well, no. I found him actually. I have a cedar grove. Um, when I bought my property, it was all woods and it was just vacant ground. And I found my springs and then I put in what I wanted here. I got 23 acres and probably 4 acres I use to live on. The others is woods. I don't, I leave it for a purpose. And, but I found him and he had been bitten through his hindquarters and his private areas. Massive teeth. I mean, went in. I mean, just almost, it's like it almost bit him in two. Never did I think he would live. I did not. I brought him in and Dad told me what to do. I use a lot of the old time remedies. I ain't much on. I take whatever modern medicine that has to be done, but I use herbs. I have my own roots. My son brings it in. I make a liniment. I used it on. My mom had stage 4 cancer, so I didn't want to drug her up. I wanted that time with her where she could be lucid. And I used her legs would hurt so bad, and I use it. I put it on my dad because his back and stuff. I use it on veterans. It's amazing because I had one gentleman. He hadn't walked for years, hadn't slept through the night. He's a Vietnam vet, really amazing guy, and he hurt, and he wouldn't take the pain medicine. They gave him morphine, and he's like, I ain't taking that. I'm not going to be no slobbering idiot, And he's amazing mind. And so I made that and I brought it and I put it on him. He had not slept through the night for years. And he slept through the night. He's like, I don't know what you did, but he's like, you just performed a miracle. And it's just old time stuff. I and that's what happened with Dad. They tell me he's going to live a week. I brought him home and he's like, I want you going down on the creek. And he said, go back to the farm. And he said, I want some, you go down there and get some bark off the peach tree and it's different stuff. And he had me bring it home and some herbs. And he said, now just, mash it up, make me a paste and wrap my ribs. And I did. He did not use oxygen. He had no lungs. I mean, he didn't walk around all day. I'm totally honest. I'd help him from his bed to his chair. But he hated that oxygen so bad. He said, hurt his. He said, that stuff smells awful. But, and right up to the last 3 days of his life, I had to take him to the hospital because Mom, it made her too nervous. And he said, I don't upset her. So I took him and I never left him. I stayed with him. And the last words that he said, he'd ate a little bit for me. It's 5 o'clock. And they say I go to the bathroom. I said, well, let me get a nurse. And he's like, I can't wait. So I got his potty. That's a big guy, but he wasn't as big as he used to be. And I moved him over on his potty. I just turned around to reach for his wipes, and I heard him say Duke. And I turned around, and his last words on this earth was he said Duke, and I dropped into my arms. And of course they come in, they're doing all this stuff. And I went to the window and I looked down because we're a country hospital, we've got woods around us. There's a pond outside his window. I'm up 2 stories up. And there from the woods comes this big old buck deer, huge rack. I mean, he's 14 point if he's anything. He come to that pond and he put his head down and he raised his head up, looked straight into my face, and he shook his head. And I turned around. I said, is there a heartbeat? She was working hard. And I said, leave him alone. I said, he's done gone, So my dad's, his Shawnee name is Peshiwa. It means old wildcat. And there's a story that goes with that too. But I knew he was gone. I know he collected him. And he was at peace. So he, I even, with the Shawnee burial, you start to, they're special. You have to lay the funeral fires. It all has to be cedar. And the boys laid it for me. It has to burn for 3 days. And Dad wanted to be cremated. He didn't want to be buried. So, of course, I have to go through the modern day way to do it. He wanted to go back to the land. His grandpa, or his great grandpa, was buried in the woods down by where Dad was born. Still family ground, but Conservancy owns it. That's where he wanted to go, and of course they wouldn't let me take his body there and bury it. So I had this wonderful man at the crematorium because he knew how I was about that. I never left Dad, and so when they took him up there, and he told me, I was like, I got to see him. I can't put him in there. You have to open it so I can see him, and he did. He was really great. And he said, I'll do you one better. He said, I know how you are. He said, I understand your ways. And so he said, he showed me the thing. He said, you push that. And you have to put them up in, and the door closes. And he said, now you push that button. He said, So I did. And that was my dad. That was my dad.
Your dad raised a very strong girl, and you stayed with them to the end, and you gave them what? Your dad.
I did his burial, and you keep the fires burning. You have to collect the ash and then the ochre, and it's all the burial goods. So I did what he asked, but not that it wasn't hard. Don't get me wrong. I had my moments, but you have. That was my duty. I'm the oldest daughter, and I follow the ways. So that was,
But
Hmm.
when we were talking about your dad, those watchers stayed there until he passed.
Right.
So it was almost like all of those years that he interacted with them, and it sounded to me like he respected the boundaries, but that's what 80 years of
Right.
communication and interacting with something,
Right.
and to know that they stayed there and they watched till your dad passed.
Right.
It was like losing a friend to them too.
Yeah.
That's familiar.
Their family, they think or whatever, which I don't care. This is my way. This is my belief. Everybody can believe the way they want. That's just absolutely their business.
Absolutely. Good for you.
But they're part of us. The old legend says that, well, the Shawnee thing, this is old stories that's handed to me. And they said in the beginning they called them the moon-eyed people came and had children with the Shawnee, and the Watchers is part of that they left to protect the children of that interaction. And that's kind of what, you know, Dad said something along those lines. And they're part of us. We're part of them. And we're family, you know. But like I said, but I never underestimate. Uh, these are mine. I call them mine because I know their voice. Like I know your voice. I talk to you, and I can hear you. I will recognize you. I know their voice. I know their sounds. And if it's not one of mine, and I know their feelings, I feel them. I feel their emotions, and they feel mine. Uh, Sometimes they don't like people being close to me, especially males. It just depends on the situation. Um, but they've always been a part of my family, and they're part of me now. And as I gotten older, you know, I do the gifting. I hunt. I hadn't hunted for a while, few years, and this year I decided I was going to hunt because we had the floods, and our electric went out here, and there's older people. So I'll kill the deers, and I grind them in the hamburger mostly. I take the other meat too, but a portion of whatever I take, I never leave. When I kill a deer, every bit of it is used. The antlers are used for buttons or knife handles. My son is a napper, so the leg bones he splits. He turns those into blades for the knives. He does really good work. The sinew, we even pull the sinew. We dry it. We do it. Um, so there's nothing left. Once, you know, if you kill something, you better honor it, you know, because you're taking it, it's giving you its life, it's giving you its body, and you need to honor that, whatever you do. No cutting its head off, throwing it over the bank just for a trophy. That is, you know, for me, that's a supreme sacrifice. They sacrifice their life. That's to feed you and to care for you. So I have you know, years ago, I worked in a nursing home, and I worked with this boy. Well, he's a big old guy, and he bet me. He's talking about deer hunting and all this, and he's like, "You couldn't kill a deer." Like, really? And
Don't know who he was talking to.
I said, "I'll bet you $100." And he's like, "Only if you can skin it." I said, "Get your money ready, bud." So I did, and he come. I rolled the guts on his feet. uh, I got paid. He puked. I was like,
You, you were telling me about, I think it was when you were talking about making knives, about how the generational blood has been in the same piece of.
yeah,
Can you go into that? I thought that was
yeah.
fascinating.
Well, I'm a dowser, and I taught the dows when I was young, kind of at the protest of my dad. He didn't want me to start doing it when I was that young, but there was a need. And I wrote a story about it. Actually, it's published in one of the dowser magazines out of Canada. Um, I took in, it was the old peach limb. It had been handed down from generation to generation. And through every generation, that once you're a dowser, when it'll turn so strong in your hand that it'll cut your hand, so you're going to bleed because you can't let go, and once it's out, it'll turn, and it'll cut you. And so through every generation, that blood is in the wood, and it's had a special bag. It had to stay in that old red bag, old red, but it's very honored and cared for. And I was not quite 10 the first time that I got to handle that peach stick. And with my uncle fought like a wildcat to get to let me get it done. My dad protested. He's like, "No, she's a little girl. She don't need to be doing that right now." But he won out, so it died really did. But I did it because I wanted to. Oh my gosh, I hid behind a tree. I'd been out in the woods. I was in bibs, and I take I wore moccasins. I'd wear them. And I was standing there, and I was standing there listening. I was eavesdropping. I could hear him arguing. And Dad's like, no, no, no. And he's like, she's the one with the blood. She got to do it. And I was like, I said, I was like biting my tongue, and you can just imagine. Again, here's the hair and the sticks, and I've been out in the broad. And I snuck in there. I heard him talking, and I'm big ears, And I kept thinking, oh my dream was to be able to touch the Witcher. I wanted that so bad. And he finally gave in, and I got to do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it is like this amazing. It's like something else takes over, and but through when you touch that, you're not just touching, you're touching all those generations and all that energy that came from them, and it's just I can't I can't tell you how amazing it was, and it was just still to this day, I still feel that in my heart. That's so special in my heart. So
It was the blood of your family. It's the same blood that's in your veins. It's the
right,
same blood that flows through you that
right,
makes you the woman you are. You also, um, when we were speaking about the Watcher's Maiden, you told me about the women warriors in your background
yeah.
and how
There's
that related to you and how you fell into that part.
well, there is in this area. Um, there was a warrior, and it was all women, very fierce, fierce warriors, and they were. But that's my bloodline that comes down through my grandmother's generation to generation, and for each one, because you got to remember back then there wasn't a lot of people, so it wasn't uncommon for cousins to marry each other, and they kept that blood going, and but these women were amazing. Um, the ones, my one grandmother's name was Lame Wolf. That was her name. And they always walked with the wolves. They always had wolves. That was their companions. Um, there's a lot of rules that went with once you were chosen, which I was chosen. You start your training at 12 years old, and you're not supposed to get married. One of the rules is about children, because if you're a warrior, a child, you love your child. Your child is going to be that one thing on earth that you're going to fight heaven and earth and all the demons from hell. If you're a good mother, you're going to fight that no matter what. And but it's also it's a weakness, because they can use that against you. And so I, I guess I rebelled, after so many years, and I did. I got married, I had kids, and then after I lost my husband and youngest son in a car accident, and then I still had kids at home that I was raising, and I was young when I lost them. But I went back, in my life. I went back to the old ways, and so I had a moment where I turned away, and then I came back, and now I'm just more stronger for it. Their rules are strict. Um, I'll always care for my elders. I'm an elder now, so it. But this sect of warriors, they were special. They're fierce warriors. They were medicine women. Um, that's where I get a lot of my stuff from, like the healing and whatever. That's handed down. Um, and again, with the Watchers, there came a time in the mid 1800s where, like I said, there's good and there's bad. And there's the story is told that so the bad ones came and they were like stealing the women and the children and doing all kind of bad stuff.
You're talking about the Blackwell,
Right.
the
Uh,
Watchers.
the Watchers, right. And for this, the maidens, the warriors, there had to be a ceremony put together, and they were part of that. You had different, of course, there's different clans, each, the Shawnee has different clans, and the wolf clan was part of the maidens, and she had two huge wolves that walked with her. There's always three. There has to be three of the women, and then the next group that had to join with her, they had panthers. They walked with the panthers, and then there was the medicine man and the old seer. Um, but the thing that was thrown in the middle of that, my grandfathers, when they first came here in the 1700s, he was Irish, and he was a trapper, and he came here, and he had been married before and had two twin sons, and of course his wife had passed away, and he married one of the Shawnee women, which made him, become part of that family. And then they had my great 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 grandfather. That was their child. And so on this time, this all has to be put together. I can't tell you how the ceremony's done, but it was done. And that's when this is like I said, this is her story. This is not mine. This is only what's been handed down. They created what they called the dog man was to fight the bad watchers, and they had to be driven back into a cave where they came from. And then at the entrance to the cave, which I've been there because that buggy axle, they drove an iron buggy axle, like the old time buggy. It's made of iron, and that was driven there, and their blood added to that as protection, so the bad can't come out. And ever so many years, my dad had taken me there when he could still walk, and he showed me. He's like, it's a secret place, nobody knows. And he took me there, and he's like, and you won't find it. It's kind of buried, like, but he knew exactly where it was. And he took me. He's like, you see this every so many, you have to add your blood to that iron. He's like, this is my last year. I won't be able to come back again. And
It's okay. You know what? Just it's okay. Just take your time.
So and I do it. I actually did it this, not this year. Last year was my year to travel into there, and I did it, and I'll continue to do it as long as my legs carries me. I will do as he asks. So
So,
that's the story of how they created I'm sure I've heard other ones about the dog man and how they were created, other uh, tribes and different stories from different things. But that was a Shawnee story that was given to me. And I actually, like I said, I wrote some of it. I try to save the stories that's been handed to me. I'll rewrite them and I put them back. Some's been published, not secret stuff, but I want to be able to hand that book to one of my grandchildren, great grandchild, somewhere along the way. Um, you have a replacement, but my son that died was my replacement. So I have to kind of, my oldest son, he follows the ways. He does all of the napping and anything I need to do, he's there. My daughter does not want anything at all to do with it, and my other son doesn't. But I had those two. But my youngest, he was my heel jack. He was my little in the woods with a gun in his hand, his old dog. That was it.
you eventually earned the title White Wolf Woman. Was
Mhm.
the clan of the warriors that you fell under,
Right,
correct? And so, and that was something that was an honor to you. That was something
absolutely.
that was it was kind of your right you were born into, but you had to earn it.
Right. You do not get anything given to you. Dad was harder on me than any of the others. You know, it was, I had to be, you behave in a certain way. It's like, you know, he would teach me how to get what I wanted, never give it to me because he wanted me to be strong. And he didn't want, he said, I don't want you to ask anybody for anything. He said, anything you need, you will be able to do it yourself. And he did. I mean, I rode bulls. I can't say that, you know, I mean, still to this day, I'm a little older, but I, I follow what he says. And I taught my girls, my daughter, and she has three daughters, and those three girls has worked their way through college. They each one have 4 degrees. They're like super smart. Their brains. It's like I tease them. I said, "Thank God you got your mom's brain." I love my son-in-law. He was one of my kids. Like in my, you know, at my house, these kids would all show up. Well, he came home on the bus with my oldest son. He was friends with him, and I love him dearly. I do. When he sees me, it's like he's hugging me. I love you, Maul. He calls me Maul. And there was one of his friends actually looked at him when he said, "I think you love her more than you do your wife." I teased him. I said, "Only way you got to marry Becky is because he's friends with the boys, and he got through the boys, our brothers." But so it's, you know, I have a good family. I just I can be tough. I am. I had the mother of sons, so uh, let's just say whenever there was discipline to be had, my husband he never. I'm not I'm not a spanker. I'm not, but I'll tell you, if you know, if there was a time that that had to be, it was me. God help me. He's like, send them to the room, take something away. But when my kids went in the store, you know, they knew this is what you can do. There was no temper tantrums or because I knew.
More of that in the world.
Oh
I,
Lord,
I go in. Oh man,
I just, I guess
I
I was.
go into Walmart sometimes, and I'm like, I'm so good. This is why I didn't have kids. This is why.
They can be, yeah.
But you just, I mean, not to change the subject, but there's so much that we spoke about, and going back to the watchers and the good and the bad, and how the iron ore was supposed to be something about that iron ore is what locked them
Right.
in
Um,
place. But you were telling me a story once about a native that you were telling me how the bad ones would come and they would take the women, and
right.
that this young lady had just gave birth and she was in the cabin, and there was something about the chimney. You want
Right.
to go into that story because I found that really intriguing, but it plays a part into the iron ore. If you
Right.
see me keep going off screen, it's because I broke every region of my back and I
Oh
keep
gosh.
having to adjust. So no disrespect, but while you're
It's
telling that story, I'm gonna try to adjust my back again. Okay.
well with this again, it was back early 1800s, and again, it was part of my family. The old cabin set, we called it the Cedar Flats. And again, this is deep woods. There's no houses. This is old trappers and his Shawnee Indian wife. And he had went out to run the trap lines. It's a big snowstorm, and if it's snowing, and you know she's home alone. She just had the baby, and she hears the screaming coming through the woods. And of course, you know the superstition or whatever you want to call it, but she knew that there was something coming. And you know, some people called it the Wendigo. To me, I don't think it was Wendigo. I think it was a watcher. But she did there's ceremonial type stuff that you put around the doors, and you know they can't enter into the through the doors or whatever. And of course they had the old time big rock fireplace, And then she realizes she's there. She's just her and the baby. And she realizes the chimney. It can come down the chimney because supposedly they can change, or like a shapeshifter, and they can change. And so she's got her baby there. She's going to fight. And the only thing she had was the part of that is iron, the iron. And so that's what she used to keep it from getting in to it was coming through the chimney. So this had happened like in the early 1800s. Well, years later, the cabin got taken down. He took it down piece by piece, and he moved it around to more where there's more, where there's people now. And he put it back together. He used the old logs. He took that chimney down, and he moved. These are old cut rocks, like you go out and just form them. And he moved all that, and he put that all back together. It's beautiful. I was just there a few months ago. And but this is years later, coming forward, from the early 1800s, moving forward into, I'm thinking in the 60s probably. And again, it's snowing, and a local gentleman here, his name's Jim Taylor, and a very respectful, God-fearing, non-drinking man. Well, he's coming home, but his house is on the round, and it's sleeting and snowing. He's cold. He's walking home from work. And so the cabin's there, and he decides to this day that fireplace still works. You can build a fire in it. And so he went in there, and he built him a fire, and he took his boots off to dry him out. And his was the story that's told. There's a gentleman here that I just talked to him the other day. I love his stories. And so he's getting sleepy, he's getting drowsy from being cold, and he's warming up and the fire and all that. So he said that he's starting to, he's not asleep, but he's comfortable. And from the fireplace, he sees this shape forming in the fire. And he said, he called it the devil. He said it was like it had horns and, the whole thing, and it's coming out of the fire. Well, it scares the bejeeminies out of him. So he grabs his boots and his coat, and he ran out the door, and he said, I run for my life. He said, I was saying the Lord's Prayer every step of the way. He's like, save me, Jesus, save me, Jesus. And so the old, that was, but in the beginning, when this first came, now whether it was whatever the entity was embedded into those stones and into that cabin, because they moved. She had the iron. She put that iron where it needed to be so nothing could come in, because she knew what had to be done. When he took it down, he moved it. So he released what she had done. That was done. It was no longer, there was not that protection there. And it was probably about 3 months ago. I went out, and I love it. There's a family of red foxes living up underneath that, but the old cabin, you can walk up in. He's kept it. He put it together good. And my inspiration probably might be stupid. I don't know, but I really want to do it. I want to go back, and I want to build a fire in the fireplace. But I'm going to take my iron with me. I use a different thing, but I know what, I know that secret that they gave. And I want to video it. I want to record and see if there is something there. Because I got permission from the owner, and I think I'll put the iron back. Just for, I don't know, safety sake, or just for honor of what she did. I really want to do that. Nobody will ever know it's there but me.
That sounds like a good idea. And getting back to the watchers, you had an incident where they were on your property and they were aggravated, and you got
Yep.
hit with
Well, back in the summer, there's a group that comes here. They do research, and they have a place. over the hill, kind of from where my home is. They'll come there and they rent a cabin there, and they was doing just doing wood knocks, and they bring they'll do like the wolf house. They do the calls. That's what, and they've gotten a lot of stuff back. They had an incident that happened to them back in 2014. I think they aggravated them a little too much. but but on this night, I came in. I'd actually been with them, and they's up there, and I've kind of had in the back of my mind, this probably ain't a good idea. They was there putting those calls out, and so I come home, and I'd been at work, so I had skirt on and tennis shoes. They had to take off my work shoes. I put tennis shoes on, and they were doing, and he messaged me and said, "Won't you walk out there and see if you can hear that?" So I got a big greenhouse up against the woods. Like I said, I have a small area where I live, and the rest of it is woods. And that's their place. And I got back here, and once you leave my barns, I'm in total pitch black. I mean, it is dark. Only thing I had was my phone, and I got up there, and I hear the screams in the woods. I hear it. It's mad, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, old Grandpa, he's getting mad there." And I've never had violence towards me, never, not trying to hurt me. And I get up there to the greenhouse, and those little red igloo coolers, and they got the white lids on. They're about yay big, and it comes flying through there, and it hit me right there, and I went down like a sack of taters. I hit the ground, and I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to do? I don't got no gun. I never took nothing with me. Not that a gun would have did me any good. I'll be honest. And it's screaming. I was going to send you that recording because I actually got a recording on my phone from that night and he's screaming. Actually, I'll try to send that to you so you can have it. But I'm down. I'm down on the ground, and I'm thinking, what the crap? And the signal, I can use my camera or phone or what to record, but my signal is not good back there. It'll go out. And I can't say I wasn't scared. I think I peed my pants a little bit right there. And it was discerning. But from here, he's coming this way. This is woods. This is just wood, and the trees are just breaking and cracking and just like pushing. And here he is. And from this side, now he's tan. He's the old man, and he's not black or brown. He's tan colored, more white. From this side comes the small one. Now you're looking at 8-9 foot thing here, and you got a 6 foot here. But he comes from down over that bank, and he hit him, and they're fighting. It's like, and I'm thinking, okay, it's my chance. I'm getting the heck out of here. And I get up, and that was my chance, and I took it, and I got back to the barn, and I keep a pump shotgun in the barn. I keep it hid in there, and then I reached for it, and I thought, you crazy, get to the house because I got to go all the way across that bridge and a good far piece down to where my house is. Well, I know I'm going to get inside, and that's what I did. And I'll tell you, I had wet britches when I got home. I did. That was when I get scared, I laugh. I don't know if anybody else does or not, but I'm not. I get emotional. I cry. I think about my dad. I'll cry. But if that part, I'll laugh. It's like, I don't know.
It's tension relief.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, if I was going to get in a fight, I fought with my brothers. I fought with whatever. I'd be smiling. It never was. When the smile come, I start smiling, and then I'll chuckle, and then God help your soul. So I'm odd. I don't know. I'm odd. But I got in, and I could still hear those screams up there. I could hear it. I don't get no message back. And he goes, "Oh, I went to bed." I was like, "Oh, really? You went to bed? I'm being murdered."
Do you think that when you got hit with the cooler, the one watcher went after the other watcher for hitting you? You think it
Absolutely.
was the juvenile that did it, or
I think he's mine. I think just like Dad had his, they grow up with you, and he's not got his full growth. He's younger, but he's mine, and that was. And I don't honestly think he meant to hit me. I think it was mad, and it was agitated. It got. It didn't. It heard those calls. It's thinking, we got somebody else coming into my area. This is my area. It's like somebody breaking in your house. You're going to protect your house, and it was just throwing because I back where the greenhouse was, I had the tiller and buckets, and that cooler was sitting there. There was rocks there, where we moved it away to put up that kind of stuff. So there's plenty of stuff to throw, and I don't think it intentionally meant to hit me, but I think it was in a rage. It's like a human being gets in a rage, and they don't know what they're doing or whatever. But honestly, if it hadn't been for the second one, he detoured him, and but that I've never been hurt. I mean, other people talking about they've had these big rocks thrown at them. I'll get acorns, or it's kind of like a kid playing a prank, or get my attention or whatever. The little ones will go up high, they'll go up in the trees and play. So it's yeah,
you, you said you had they had different clans.
yeah.
You've
There,
named them, right? You have the ones you're familiar with that
yeah,
you
yeah. I
have
have.
to.
You'll find it's like those tree shelters. They look like a teepee, and you'll wind the huge trees, and they bring them up and they'll hook them together, and it comes down. It's like, and everybody's like, "Oh, somebody did that." Let me tell you, it takes at least 3 or 4 men to lift one of those poles because they're 25, 30 feet in the air. I have,
Wow.
I have pictures of them, and there's a big debate on one of the things I put it on there, and it's like, oh boy, Cub Scouts did it. I was like, honey, if there's a Cub Scout that can lift that, I don't want him in my child's. I'm sorry, he got full grown something, but and the stones, I actually have in my yard. After I moved Dad, my sister had went back down on the creek, and and she disturbed these. Well, I was never allowed to touch them. Dad show them to me. They'll stack these rocks up, and that's their markers. It's saying this is safe. You can travel here. It's safe. Nothing will bother you. Whatever. You're going to get food here. There's different things with these rocks. And on the one, I don't know if you know. Do you know what the stone the egg stones are? It's part of the old Shawnee legend too about the capture of the soul in that stone, and then they take it to the ceremonial spot to release the soul to be reborn or to carry on, to go on, whatever. And then it's an altar stone, is what it is. And then there's these round circles, and you lay them stone eggs in them. And when you go up to this one, nobody even knows what it is. Or it's right there along the trail. It's like about this big around, and there's kind of moss over it. Of course, the ones who knows what it is, they know what it is. People travel through there all the time and walk past it and never have an idea. But these two, she disturbed them. She brought them for my land. My dad never got mad, or he never showed his temper unless he. But that night, he was mad because she knew. I'm sure he told her don't touch them because I was very, very well taught. Don't touch them. Don't disturb them. Well, she brought him. I actually had to buy him back because Dad was so mad. And I saw, I'm like trying. I was like, Dad, I'll take him back. He said, you can't take them back. They've been disturbed. You cannot take them back. Well, on the back of my house, I built a room on the back, and it had the windows kind of like a porch room. And I took those two rocks, they're about this big, round, about like this. I took them out, I set them there side by side. And I had a neighbor that lived down the road from me. She come spend the night. Her husband worked at night. She didn't like to spend the night by herself. And we were best friends. She passed away a few years ago.
Oh,
But we were in the kitchen, and of course I had the storm door, and all of a sudden, two big blue orbs of light, like fire, burst through that door. It came past us. I swear I'm not crazy. I don't drink and I don't do drugs. And she's standing there, and it went through front door and straight down in the ground in front of my dad's front door. That's where it went now.
wow.
And well, you can imagine. I'm standing. I was like, and she's like, I saw it too. And I was like, are we crazy? She's like, I saw it too. So I cannot put them together as long as I keep them apart. You're fine. They can't be in the same room, the same area. They have to be kept apart.
Wow.
You put them together, and you're going to get them blue orbs. So,
You want you want to
and
get what? The orbs?
orbs, you will get the orbs.
Wow.
So that energy is in those stones, and they use those. I think the shelters, maybe they use the shelters for some kind of energy type thing too. Because you'll find the X's, you'll find like sticks on the ground in the woods or wherever, and you'll just find an X, and then the Y. But the Y is also the shape of the dowser rod, but those are markers because you'll find them turned, and it's
You
like you're on the paths. You know what I mean?
you pointed that out to me in some photos I'd sent to you, but what you didn't know is the path split.
Mm-hmm. In the Y.
Tell you that.
It
It just
always is. It's kind
yeah.
of you'll find that Y, and so the more you know about it, and the more you've seen it or did it, um, it makes more sense. My dowsing rods, I use the copper rods now that come out and go out, and it's got the handles. And when I start them, they look like a helicopter. They just as fast as can be, which freaks people out. And as I look at them mentally, I control them, and I'll bring them to, I control and bring them to a stop. And I can ask them questions. The thing of it is, they're mine, so they're part of me. Um, and I'll let other people hold them or whatever, and they won't do anything. They'll just sit. It's like, how did you do that? What are you doing? What are you doing? It's like, just watch. And I'll take my hands and I'll run them up under their hands, and they'll take off from my energy, and then I'll move my hands away, and they'll stop. So
Um,
I douse. I don't just do the well, find the water or whatever. You can do the energy lines, the ley lines. They'll answer questions for you. But the very first thing you do is you do your prayer, and you ask for no lies, because in the spirit world, they like to tell you lies. It don't mean you can contact and you can talk different things. It don't mean that they are who they are. They like to take the shape of children, because you'll protect a child and you'll trust that child. It won't be a child at all. So there's a lot of different things that can happen. So you have to be very cautious, and um, I guess it goes back because I believe in God, and I believe in the Creator. I believe the Creator is God. I have different versions. I have my Shawnee blood, and I have the white. So I have no objection to going to church. All that. I use the Lord's Prayer. I do, but I also use my Shawnee, and
we
so yeah.
so we were talking about, and we were talking about, how the cultures are shaped and how you're stripped of your beliefs and who you are. And I believe it was the Death Valley that come
Yeah.
up, and you told me the history of that. And I had asked you, for the people that think the Watchers to them are tribal or, such, why would you want the government involved in protecting them when they have done done so
Yeah.
much wrong?
Yeah, because up
That's when
until
the
yeah, until 1994, the children were still being taken to those government schools, hair cut off. They're not allowed to use their language. That's how the old language got lost, because anytime a child, they're coming here, they're speaking their language, and they're beaten out of them. They're abused. And this went on, horrible, horrible, horrible things. And it's, I guess it goes back.
education of little tree. Do you remember that book, The
Right,
Education of Little Tree, when they just
right.
that
It's horrible. It is absolutely, because you're treated less than an animal. Uh, and don't get me wrong, I don't believe in slavery, and the the African American people treated horrible, treated horrible. But the Native Americans were worse, actually, because of they didn't put the African Americans on a reservation. They didn't take them away. They didn't take their children away. Our children's taken, and their heritage was beaten out of them. And I get emotional. I gotta calm myself down, because and to me, the Watchers are my people. They are my family. They are here for a reason. I'm not saying that there's not bad ones. I'm not saying they have not did bad things, because even in life, there's good people and there's bad people, and they do good things and bad things. They protect their own, and I protect them. They protect me. But if you look at what happened, you think about, uh, uh, the Watchers interacted with the natives long before the white man came. They came second, and they've saw them, prominent people, all the way back. I mean, hey, you know, they talk about all these incidents that happened, and it's all, this has been going on for many, many, many centuries, and we knew they were there. We've always known they were there. We don't share a lot of it. I wouldn't want the government to come in, and because first off, it's always got to kill, kill, kill. You have to kill something to prove it's there. You don't have to kill anything. That's ridiculous. Why did you have to do that? Why do you have, I'm taught you don't kill anything unless you're going to eat it, or you have to protect your family. If there's somebody breaking in my house that's going to harm my child, I will do what I have to do to protect my family and my children. And will I pull that trigger? Yes, buddy, I will. I will. Will I club you if I have to? I certainly will. I'm not going to back down. You're going to have to kill me to get to mine. And
I agree.
and you're gonna have a hard time doing it. And believe me, somewhere along the way, there's somebody behind me that's gonna get you. But I don't trust the government in that aspect. I think it would be experiments, and I don't,
Sometimes if you love something or even have a respect, you don't have to love it, you don't have to agree with it. You can think they're all evil, but sometimes you let wild things stay wild.
absolutely, yes,
I do agree. I had Fred Roll on the show the other day, and the acknowledgement, even if it's a soft acknowledgement, he kind of pounded it in my head nicely. Um, for public safety is one thing,
right.
but to request the protection or government oversight of them, I'm not there. There's a difference there.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Now, Well, going back to my Shawnee story,
Hmm.
when there was a threat, when the bad ones came, they were handled, they were taken care of. And do I think that some of them was killed? Yes, I do, because I think that was the whole thing about the dog man, and for the maidens to come to do battle. They're fierce. You think a man's bad? You should try one of these ladies, because let me tell you, they are ass kickers through and through. Excuse me if I shouldn't say that, but um, so when this came together, you had a lot of power there, and these got these watchers. The speculation was that we had some evil, like medicine men, and they will want to use that for their own good, and so they were part of the reason that they turned bad. So I mean, this is like, again, old history, old stories. Now I can only repeat what I've been told. I can't say that's true, I can't say it's not true, but I do know that my dad wouldn't ask me to walk through this place and put myself at risk to go where I have to go to do what I do, unless there wasn't a good reason for it, because he would never do that. So, um, and I will, like I said, I'll continue to do that until my legs won't carry me. And then I pray to God that I have a replacement that'll take it over and do that for me. That carries this blood. So I'm a,
You, I, I I don't think. The, I think the right things will fall in place because everything else has fallen into place for you in your life with that. So what is meant to be will happen, and it's just it's in your blood, in the blood of the land as well, literally the blood of the land. There will be someone that you will find appropriate to do that. And
that, that's true. And I've found out that my judgment might not be right, but I can tell you this: if I'm being going the wrong way, if there's something wrong, there will something interfere or intervene, and they will change that, and they will show me, hey, what? And they try me. They do. They try me. It's a teaching thing, because I'm older, but I'm still a child, and I'm still learning, and so I can make the wrong judgment along the way, but they'll fix it. They absolutely will fix it. So if I've made a mistake in my judgment that maybe this person wasn't the right person, they
they
will.
will.
They will, and that's happened. So I think everybody meets for a reason, and I'm not drawn to a lot. I'm a pretty private person. I don't have a lot of friends, and the ones that
Better,
are, yeah,
better four quarters than 100 pennies.
absolutely, absolutely. So when I find somebody that I'm drawn to,
Mhm.
I feel it here, and I know, because I I work with different people, and I work with the veterans and stuff, and we have a special relationship, Um, but I don't just go out and I'm just not, all happy and all friendly with her. I don't do that. That's not me. And if I love somebody, I love them. I don't love you
Completely.
today and hate you tomorrow. That's not me. So
You when you love completely, without
absolutely. Yep.
hesitation,
Yep.
and for the imperfection and the
Yep.
rawness, you still
Yep.
understand that.
Yep.
So I've had, we've been going on about an hour and a half, but I wanted to touch on here recently, and I think it's something that's I got to adjust again,
Yep.
but I think it's something that is really important because you talked about how you felt like the dog man came
Oh
he
yeah.
from the
Well,
bat, but not too long ago you had an experience with a dog man.
right. I had never in my whole life, I'd never seen anything that I thought would even be that. And um, it was in October. I think it was the last of October, I believe. And there was another. I hike. I mean, I can do a 10-mile hike. I love the woods and all. And on this day, the girl she wanted to show me a new place I'd never been to, and so I went and she drove. Can you see what he wants? I got somebody hollering back here. I got the person I take care of, so I'm going to send my grandson to take care of him. And but we went and we hiked 6 miles back into deep woods. Had a great day. We had a fun. We saw a lot of X's on the ground, saw a lot of the Y's, and this was her spot. So we go back. There's a big old holler tree. I saw a picture. We got into it, took pictures. Just acting a fool. Actually squatted down, which was a mistake because then my knee wouldn't push me back. But anyway, and we was coming back out, and it was getting evening time. It wasn't dark; it was still light, and we was coming down the last part of the trail to get back to the car. And I looked down the trail, and I seen something. And at first, I thought, "Is that a?" It was just black. I was like, "Is that a turkey?" I even said that. I was like, "What is that, a turkey?" And the other girl, she had a good camera, which I have a cheap one, and she's like, put the camera on. She's like, "It's just a black blob. I can't tell what it is." So we go on, and then we realize just how far away this thing is. And of course, I carry a gun. I got 380. I carry 380, and I have two spare clips in the thing because we got again coyotes, snakes, whatever. And so I have a little bag I carried in. I kind of pulled it around. That's my routine. I'll slip it around, and whether anybody knows what I'm doing or not. And we went on a little farther. She picked up a stick. She said, "Oh, I hope that ain't a dog somebody turned loose." She's like, "I hate it when they do that. I hate when people just, whatever." Because it's going back and forth. It's like tracking back and forth across the trail, and it's like a roadside trail. It's back and forth, back and forth. And then there was a doe deer on my side. It's on the right, and it jumped up and run down through the woods. And but we kept, and it's still tracking back and forth, back and forth. So on all fours. And then we get closer, and we look at it. It's like, well, it looks like German Shepherd. It's got a German, it's a big old head. And keep it going. And she's got, she's picked up a stick. And I walk with a stick, it kind of helps. And but again, my gun's around there, and I done flipped it. I flipped safety off, and I unzipped so I can get my hand in there if I need to. And on down we go. And the other girl, she's like, and she's talking. She's like, "What is that?" She's like, "It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger." And we move on, and then it's huge. It's still on all fours, and it back and forth. And then finally, at the, after it stood up, it's going off. It went off but instead of fours, it came up. And it's the size of a man, but it had a head of a German Shepherd. I'm like, it's somebody in my mind. You're trying to rationalize. Is somebody playing with it? Getting it to jump up. Still, what is that? And there's no way out for us. We have to go past where this thing is. And I'm thinking, it's just off on the edge of the woods, it's probably sitting off there. And if it is a dog, it's a huge dog. It's black. And we get to the area, and I mean, every hair standing up. I had cold chills up and down my spine. And I didn't smell anything. And so we move on, and we had to go maybe another 50 feet or so to get up to where the parking lot was, and we did. And I was driving my daughter's cars, 4-wheel drive, and I hit the clicker, open the doors because I'm gonna get in the car. And the other, she's like, there's bathrooms there. She's like, "I go to the bathroom." I was like, "You sure you don't?" But she went on, and I had to open the car door by hand because the battery in the key was dead, and there was no reason for it to be dead. It was fine, no problem. And so still uneasy and get in the car. And by that time, it was getting pretty dark. It was the light was dim. And we left. Well, I have a friend. I sent a message to him, and asked his opinion, and he's like, maybe you just saw a dog man. So you're describing a dog man, and I'm like, well, I heard stories. It didn't look like a werewolf type thing or nothing like that. Not for what we've seen, because it was, I mean, we literally, I'm looking down the trail and I'm thinking it's a mile away, and the closer it starts out thinking it's a turkey because that's how far.
Yeah.
And as we get closer, it's big. I mean, good big man, big. So, do I don't know what it was. Um, Possibly that's what it was, but the Watchers, yes, I'm familiar with them and I've seen them my whole life. But that's the first time I saw that. Now, when we were up in the woods, I have a recorder that I've been getting calls, the old time cassette players, I've recorded on them. So it's all the way back to like 1994. I had more. My house burned. A few years ago, my brother's cabin caught a fire, and I wasn't living there. I'd moved down to a little house because mom and dad get to the squad early, and I left everything I left in my big house because I'd go back up. And when it spread, of course, we're in the country, and I called the fire department at 5:30 in the morning. They didn't get there till 9 o'clock. So my son fought the fire to keep it out of the woods, and the one girl showed up from the fire department. She fought with him, but there was no saving the house at all. And in that house, I lost my witcher bag. All those hundreds of years, I had cast of the big footprints. I had the cassette in my bedroom. I had that, and so I handmade quilts that's 200 years old. It was handed down, handmade. I lost them. So well, you can imagine just a lifetime of, I'm the keeper, every generation, what. So I lost the China, old China, the old Crocs, that kind of thing. But I have those in there too. But I've been hearing them, I've been seeing them. Well, they've just been part of my life. Um, I have stories from other, the elders that's told me their stories. Which I have one about. It's from up in Shawnee Forest. The girl was, she was an old lady. She was in her 80s when she told me this story that happened to her. And which I'll tell it to you. I'm not sure you don't have time for that now, but um, I have numerous things. It's not just my stories. I have their stories. I record them. I write them. I don't want to lose them. Um, I do ghost stories. I have old ghost stories that they've told me, and that's my life. That's what I enjoy doing. Everybody go to movies or what? Nah. I would be happy. I sat in an old cabin or a little house beside an old person and listen to them talk, and my heart is good. That's it. Uh,
You also take care of veterans,
yeah.
and you take care of a lot of people in your community. It's just who you are. And the 2 hours on the phone I spent with you, and the time I've spent with you, you know, recording this, I really wanted to capture your story. And the more you talk, the more I realize your story is one of, through every tear you have shed, you have earned the love and the life behind it. You have earned the wisdom. But with all that you have lost, it's a loss because it was so big in your life, and not everyone has been blessed with that. And so, through that loss and through the hard times, the house fire, losing your mother, your father, your husband, your son. It, you have become the true definition of the white wolf woman, and it's something that you have earned and you carry very well. And I cannot convey in words how precious that is and what a beautiful woman you are. And I'm very proud to call you my friend.
Well, I absolutely think of you as a sister. It's like when I talk to you, it took a very short time for me to say, "Oh wow, I found a sister." This is, and I honestly believe that something's happening because this has happened to me, a couple times where I've connected with people. The one guy that came here last summer, I never met him before in my life, and the first time we met with, he goes out with the Night Stalkers too, and he's a prominent guy. And I'm like, it was like, this is my brother. I love him dearly. I can ask him advice or talk to him, and he says the same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, you're in my heart. I told him, I was like, I found my brother, and that's how I feel. And I think something's happening that's bringing people together for a reason and for the good. And the Watchers is in the center of that. They are, but I think there's a bigger reason too. I think this is these we're coming together for a reason, and it's not bad. Um, I think it's for a reason to. There's an old poem. It was handed down to, and it says, "From out of the darkness and into the light, three shall come to carry the light. No other will do. For this you must be true. For none who betray will ever get through." And there's a few more lines to it, but that was given to me as a child, and I keep it in the Bible. It's written down. I keep it in the Bible, and I think the world is just going crazy. We have so much stuff, but I think whatever's happening, certain people are being brought together for a reason. So maybe that's just me and my theory, but yeah, that's how I feel.
Well, I think you might be on to something because I do believe there's a lot going on in the world, and I do agree with you 100%. And I hope that you always protect your land, always hold those secrets close to you and protect what you care about. And I know that one day, that when the time comes and you go to the Creator, you're going to have a watcher standing in the shadows to see you off.
He's here. We have. Like I said, I communicate with them mentally. Now I'll say words at time, um, but I feel them. They feel me. I feel their emotions. And they have guided me. Believe it or not, it's like, oh, there's this wild, crazy thing, or maybe you're just nuts. Maybe you're schizophrenic or whatever. But I've never been. But
Um,
it's there. They're there to teach me, and I'm there to do what I can do to make sure that they're kept safe. So again, I say, don't just go out there and say, "Oh, you're my friend. I want to hug you," because that ain't gonna work. There's good and there's bad, and they'll tell you where them boundaries is. You can come this far, and don't you come no farther. Even me. I Back in the summer, I was upset. Again, my greenhouse, I have a little cot in there. I'll go back there and lay down on that cot, and I play flute music or drums, light drums. And it was in the nighttime. It was dark, and I just have a little bitty. I don't put no big light, a little bitty light, and I hear walking towards the greenhouse. It's like the tent kind with the heavy mesh, but it's got windows. And I put the windows down, and I hear walking crunch, 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 crunch through the sticks in the woods, and this big hand across the material. It didn't push it in. It was like this light, huge hand run down the side. And it's like, thank you. They're, he's here. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Always. Donna, it has been a beautiful journey, and I am glad you shared it with us. And at the end of each, chat that we have, I always give someone time to pay tribute to someone. Do you have someone in mind? All right, I'm gonna give you the screen. Okay.
all right. Yes, I do. First off, my dad, he taught me, and my grandma, who put up with me over my whole life and the generations back of my blood and what you've handed down to me and the strength that you've given me to carry on and go on. When at times in my life when I didn't think I could, when I'd fall down, my dad never was one of those, huggy, whatever. He get me by the arm. He say, "You stand up. You're better than that. Quit acting that way. You can do it." So when I feel like I'm going to fall down, I hear him words. So I, full recognition to my strength comes from my blood and from my heritage and from my family and the people I've met along the way that has given me what I need to be me. So I thank him with all my heart and the good Lord for keeping me alive.
Donna, I think you're enough. And I think you're still that wild child, and I hope you never change.
Oh, believe me, I still have my moments. My daughter told me, I was like, "You're gonna stick me in the nursing home?" She's like, "You're too mean, Mama." But her husband, which is one of my boys, and he's like, "Don't worry, Ma." He said, "I got a room in the back of the house. I'll always take care of you." Oh, he's like, "Who rode who?" Because I always rode motorcycle, and he's like, "You always rode with me. You never scared me." And he's like, "He's always there." He's a sweet boy. Mm, mm,
Friends, family, and land.
yeah.
Friends, family, and land. Well, I thank you for sharing your story, and I hope that you jump on with us tomorrow night. And I think you're beautiful, never change.
Well, thank you so much, and I certainly will try as long as I don't lose. We are in the middle of we have ice storm going on outside right now. I had 18 inches of snow. We're getting 6 more, but I come in this evening in the middle of ice storm. So cross fingers. I've got icicles like this long, that's this big around hanging down. I said, "Good.
Wow.
If they come down, you're done." Because it's like a big missile. But
Well,
and I
you be safe, and you make sure you tell your family thank you for standing in and giving you that time with me tonight. Just let them know I'm grateful, and I thank them very much. Okay.
well, I thank you for the opportunity, and I am so happy I met you. And I certainly
Right.
will. I certainly will be talking to you again.
I love you, my friend.
I love you too. Goodbye.
Bye bye.